Hey everybody, it's Retro Ray. Hey, welcome back to the channel. Hey, I wanted to take a look today at another old school spell. Again, we are on Magic User. First of all, let me get the stuff out of the way. Please, if you like this content, like, subscribe, click the bell icon to get notified when I upload new videos. Share with people that you know within your communities. Out here on YouTube and on your Facebook page, on your Twitter, and all those kinds of things, so we can keep working on getting these subscriber counts up. I'm pushing really hard to try to get to 500 to be able to do some polls and some other cool things like that require the 500 subscriber mark. So I hope that you'd be interested in helping me with that. Thank you to all those who have already subscribed. And so let's take a look at our spell today. Today we're actually going to be digging into, again, starting from Libram Magica, into the second level Magic User spell, Mirror Image. Now for me, this was a kind of a staple or a go-to second level spell for a lot of Magic users because, again, in old school Magic users are very squishy. Unless you are a fighter magic user or something, or have some magical items or something. But at first level, certainly magic users are all pretty squishy. And then even as you get up to third level, where you can have a second level spell, you're still pretty squishy with the D4 hit points and pretty crappy armor class. And so this is a very valuable spell to have. So let's take a look at it in Libram Magica. Again, this is magic user level 2 or illusionist level 1. The range is self. The duration is 1 turn per level. And here's the text. This spell creates several illusory duplicates of the caster. The images move through each other as well as the real caster more or less constantly, making it impossible for most creatures to determine which is real. A total of 1d4 images plus 1 image per 3 caster levels, maximum 8 images total, are created. These figments separate from the caster and remain in a cluster around him or her. The figments mimic the caster's actions, pretending to cast spells, drink potions, levitate, and so on, just as the caster does. Figments always look exactly like the caster. Enemies attempting to attack or cast spells upon the caster will always hit a figment instead. Any attack against an image destroys it, whether the attack roll is successful or not. Likewise, attack spells cast directly upon a figment will destroy it with no saving throw allowed. Area effect spells are not cast directly on the caster, and thus appear to affect all figments exactly as they affect the caster. For instance, if the caster is subjected to a fireball, all figments will appear to be injured just as the caster was. So there's going to be some differences here in this spell already, if you don't know, that you could hear right there. Let's take a listen to the BX version. Of course, I love BX for purposes of many things, and one of those is a really short version of spell description. Mirror Image is a second level magic user spell. It is range 0, which means caster only, and its duration is 6 turns. So that differs already, as Libram Magica is 1 turn per level, and this one is just simply a flat 6 turns. With this spell, the caster creates 1 to 4, 1d4 additional images of himself or herself, which look exactly the same as the caster and do exactly what he or she does. So, first of all, the Libram Magica version is considerably more powerful because you get a d4 plus 1 per 3 levels of images, 8 max. So that could be potentially double this here. Then it says any attack on the spellcaster will strike an image instead. Okay, so that's a little bit different. The Libram Magica says that the enemies attempting to attack or cast spells upon the caster will always hit a fragment instead. That's similar, but listen to the difference here. An attack roll on an image will destroy it, whether or not that spell actually hits. The attack will be used up, but one image will disappear and will not return until the spell is cast again. So it's a bit of a difference, and it doesn't delineate anything that has to do with whether or not there's a saving throw allowed, which of course logically there wouldn't be for an image. And then it doesn't say anything about area of effect spells. But that's just a given in there, that area of effect spells would affect anything in a given area. So there's just a difference in the wording, but ultimately the spell works out to be very much the same. Now let's take a listen to the version in the Rules Cyclopedia. One of the rules encyclopedia says range 0, which means caster only, duration 6 turns. That's the same. With this spell, spellcaster creates 1d4, 1 to 4 additional images which look and act exactly like him. The images appear and remain next to, within 3 feet of the spellcaster. So that's a tightening up of where exactly they are precisely. If you're using a grid square on your maps, thing that kind of came along or later on in the game, as far as codifying specific square spaces and how much those square spaces were, or if you use a hex. So it's in that one hex, or it's in that one specific square right there with you. It's not kind of spread out a little bit. So that's that 3 foot of the caster. Moving if the spellcaster moves, talking if they talk, and so forth. The spellcaster need not concentrate. The images will remain until the duration ends or until they are hit. The images are not real and cannot actually do anything. Any successful attack on the spellcaster will strike an image instead, which will merely cause that image to disappear regardless of the actual damage. This continues until all the images are dispelled. If the spellcaster is caught in the effect of an area type attack, such as fireball spell, all images will disappear and the spellcaster will be affected by the spell. Okay, so if you go back to the Libram Magica, it says any attacks against an image destroys it, whether the attack roll is successful or not. Then you come to this one. This one says any successful attack will strike an image. So the difference is Libram Magica makes it be that any attack will strike an image if it's successful. In BX, any attack on an image will destroy it, whether or not it actually hits. But then you have here in BECMI, it specifically says it must be a successful attack. So you might be running around for 6 turns, right? 60 minutes in old school timekeeping. You might be running around for 60 minutes. You might be running around for an hour with these D4 images within 3 feet of you. And as long as no one successfully attacks you, it's still you and your 1d4 duplicates, your lookalikes, right? So there's a subtle difference there in the way that would play out. And I like the BECMI version that no, an image is not going to be destroyed if they just flat out whiff on hitting that image. And I think that makes much more sense. Let's take a look at the Advanced D&D First Edition Player's Handbook version, and I'll go through that one as well. Mirror Image is an illusion phantasm spell. Magic user level 2, range 0, duration 2 rounds per level. So it's greatly reduced in amount of time that it lasts. Area of effect is a 6-foot radius of the spellcaster, so that's double that distance. And I think the BECMI one actually is they remain next to the spellcaster within 3 feet. I think that means 3 feet aside, so that the radius area of effect will be the same. Components, verbal and semantic, casting time 2 segments, and saving throw none. When a mirror image spell is invoked, the spellcaster causes 1 to 4 exact duplicates of himself or herself to come into being around his or her person. These images do exactly what the magic user does, and as the spell causes a blurring and slight distortion when it is affected, it is impossible for opponents to be certain which are the phantasms and which is the actual magic user. When an image is struck by a weapon, magical or otherwise, it disappears, but any other existing images remain intact until struck. The images seem to shift from round to round so that if the actual magic user is struck during one round, he or she cannot be picked out from amongst his or her images the next. To determine the number of images which appear, roll percentile dice and add 1 to the resulting score for each level of experience of the magic user. 25 or less equals 1, 26 to 50 is 2, 51 to 75 is 3, and 75 or more equals 4. At the expiration of the spell duration, all images wink out. So there's a slight bit of adjustment there, or an addition, I guess, when the others didn't say when an image is hit, then that one disappears and they shift around again, although I think that's supposed to be a given in the explanations as to like how that would be played out. But here it's actually spelled out. And then it also says that when an image is struck by a weapon, magical or otherwise, it disappears. Okay, so when it's struck by, meaning a successful attack, is implied in the fact that it's struck by. If you didn't strike it, it doesn't go away. Okay, so just a slight bit of wording, kind of back and forth that we're seeing here. Let's go to the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition spell. and I would imagine we will see something similar to the first edition. We'll take a look. Mirror image is the school illusion phantasm. Its range is 0. Components are verbal and semantic. Duration is 3 rounds per level, so that's an extra round over the first edition. Casting time is 2, which in first edition was 2 segments. Here's just 2 added to your initiative score. Area of effect is a 6-foot radius. That's the same, and saving throw is none. When a mirror image spell is invoked, the spellcaster causes from 2 to 8 exact duplicates of himself to come into being around him. So that's 2d4. So that's an added 1 to 4 possible images you could get there. These images do exactly what the wizard does. Since the spell causes a blurring and slight distortion when it is cast, it is impossible for opponents, to be certain which are the illusions and which is the actual wizard. When an image is struck by a melee or missile attack, magical or otherwise, it disappears. But any other existing images remain intact until struck. The images seem to shift from round to round, so if the actual wizard is struck during one round, he cannot be picked out from among his images the next. To determine the number of images that appear, roll 1d4 and add 1 for every 2 levels of experience that the wizard has achieved, to a maximum of 8 images. At the end of the spell duration, all surviving images wink out. So it's potentially 2d4 worth of images, but it starts as 1d4, and then you add 1 per 3 levels of the extra images. So the more powerful the magic user, the more images that they have, and obviously since it's 3 rounds a level, the more rounds that it would in particular last. And again, this one says the same thing when the image is struck by a melee, missile attack, magical, or otherwise. So the implication is that you have to be successfully hit. So that legerdemain, that word hoop jumping that you're doing there kind of really matters. It depends on how that's going to play out in the game, how it's going to play out for your character when you cast it, or how it's going to play out before the eyes of the enemies that are attacking you. So that's some interesting wordplay that the dungeon master and the players will have to kind of wade through and decide upon when you cast that spell. I know for me, for my magic users, when I would play them, like I said, it was always a really good spell because this one and Shield were kind of my go-to spells if I really needed to, like, oh crap, run, right? Or oh crap, duck, dodge, get out of there, get behind the fighter, get behind the barbarian, or that shield wall of that, whatever that was in the party at the time, right? So this is a really good spell for that. Just to kind of give you that round of, wow, there's 5 of you now, and we don't know which one to hit. It at least gives me a chance to run and not have a problem. Also, if you rolled low enough on your initiative in second edition, you rolled low enough on your D10 and added that 2 casting time into there, and you still went before the enemies, then you could get that spell off really quickly and then turn and run, and chances are when they get that parting shot on you, they're going to hit an image, not you. So you can turn and like get that double move, run away from them, run up around the corner, get away far enough that maybe they got to wade through your fighters or fighters and a backstabbing thief to get caught back up to you. I think was really a survival tactic that I used quite a bit. I hope you're liking taking a look at these old spells. If you use this mirror image in some unique ways, I'd love to hear about that in the comments. Share your story about that. That'd be super, super cool. Again, in the comments, please put what you'd like to see for the next spell. I'm going to be working through magic user spells of various levels, so this will take a while. And then I'm going to actually take a turn and dive into some clerical type magical spells, cleric and or druid, and kind of go in those directions for future episodes. So if you like this kind of stuff, again, thumbs up, subscribe and share. Put some stuff in the comments. I'd love to hear that. Thanks to all of you who have been doing that through several of my past videos. I'd love to hear from you a little more recently about this stuff and just get your take on these things and hear your stories. So I appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in again. Remember, check out the link in the video description for how to support me on Kofi and Patreon, and how to check me out on Facebook, and those kinds of things. And until we get back for our next video and take a look at our next spell, we'll be in anticipation of maybe covering some more Forbidden Lands here soon. And until then, hey, I hope all of you have some really great games, really get into that old school stuff, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.